Imagine standing on a dusty lot in 1981. Everywhere you look, the trucks have flat faces. No hoods, no long noses, just a massive wall of metal and glass staring back at you. This was the era of the Cabover, and in that world, the Peterbilt 352 was king. But then, Peterbilt did something bold. They launched the 362. It was supposed to be the future. It was sleek, it was wide, and it was the most advanced flat-faced truck ever built. But then, something strange happened. At the height of its fame, Peterbilt just walked away. They didn't just stop making it. They essentially buried the legacy of the Cabover to save their own skin. The shocking truth is that Peterbilt didn't kill the 362 because it was a bad truck. They killed it because it was too good at being a tool and not good enough at being a legend. How does a company that built the Model T of heavy trucks just turn its back on its own masterpiece? Was it a bad design? Did the engines fail like the famous Max Force disaster? Or was it something much more secret, hidden deep inside the Peterbilt front office? Today, I'm going to tell you the story of the Peterbilt 362 and the shocking reason why the most iconic truck maker in America decided to kill its most famous child. Before we get to the death of the 362, we have to understand why it was born. In the middle of the 20th century, the American government had a very strict rule. It wasn't about how much your truck weighed, it was about how long it was. Back then, the law measured the truck from the front bumper to the back of the trailer. If your truck was too long, you couldn't drive on the highway. It was that simple. This created a massive problem for drivers. If you wanted a bigger trailer to carry more freight and make more money, you had to make the truck itself shorter. The solution? Put the cab right on top of the engine. This Cabover engine, or COE design, meant you could have a massive 53-foot trailer and still fit within the legal length limits. Every big name was doing it. Ford had their C-Series, White Motor Company had their legendary 3000, and Peterbilt had the 352. But by the late 70s, the 352 was getting old. Drivers were tired of cramped cabs and a ride that felt like sitting on a jackhammer. Peterbilt knew they needed a game-changer. In 1981, they unleashed the 362. It wasn't just a small tweak. They widened the cab to the full legal limit. They smoothed out the edges for better airflow, long before aerodynamics was a word every trucker used. It had a massive windshield and a dashboard that looked like it belonged in a jet. For a few years, the 362 was the undisputed champion of the road. If you were a serious owner-operator, this was the truck you wanted. But while Peterbilt was celebrating, a storm was brewing in Washington, D.C. that would change trucking forever. In 1982, the government passed the Surface Transportation Assistance Act. It sounds boring, right? But for the Peterbilt 362, it was a death warrant. This new law changed how trucks were measured. Instead of measuring the whole rig from nose to tail, the government decided to only measure the trailer. Suddenly, it didn't matter how long your truck's hood was. You could have a nose as long as a football field and still pull a full-size trailer. This changed human psychology overnight. If you didn't have to sit on top of a hot, vibrating engine, why would you? Truckers started looking at conventionals. Those classic trucks with the long hoods like the Peterbilt 359 and later the 379. They rode smoother because the wheels were out in front of the driver, not directly under their seat. They were easier to work on because you didn't have to tilt the whole cab just to check the oil. And let's be honest, they looked cooler. They represented the outlaw spirit of the American road. But here is where the story gets shocking. Most people think the 362 died because nobody wanted Cabovers anymore. That's the common belief. But the reality is much more interesting. Peterbilt actually saw their sales for the 362 stay surprisingly strong with certain fleets and old-school drivers well into the 90s. They could have kept making it. They could have updated it with the new electronic engines from Detroit Diesel or Cummins. But they didn't. They walked away. Why? Because Peterbilt realized they had a branding problem. You see, Peterbilt wasn't just a truck company. They were a prestige brand. They were the Cadillac of trucks. In the 80s and 90s, the look of a Peterbilt became their most valuable asset. That long, square hood and those dual air cleaners were what made a Peterbilt. As the market shifted toward long hoods, the 362 started to look like an outlier. It didn't fit the image that the company wanted to sell to the next generation of drivers. The first step in understanding this corporate move is one that is by far the most important and yet also the most overlooked. Inside the boardrooms in Denton, Texas, the executives were worried. If they kept pushing the 362, they were competing against themselves. Every 362 sold was a 379 that didn't leave the lot. And the 379 was the truck that was making them the most money and winning all the Best in Show awards. They realized that to stay the king of the road, they had to pick a side. They couldn't be the masters of both flat faces and long hoods. They chose the hood. Much like Ford decided to focus on F-Series pickups and SUVs because that's where the big money was, Peterbilt shifted their R&D away from the heavyweight Cabovers. But there was another, even more practical reason. It's something most people never talk about, the doghouse. In a cabover like the 362, the engine sits in a tunnel between the seats. As engines got bigger and more powerful to meet new EPA rules, that tunnel, the doghouse, had to get bigger too. By the mid-90s, the engines were so massive that the inside of a cabover was becoming a nightmare. You couldn't move. You couldn't reach the sleeper berth without doing gymnastics. Peterbilt looked at the engineering costs to redesign the 362 cab to fit the new, massive radiators and cooling systems required for the upcoming emission laws. They saw a mountain of debt and R&D costs, much like what eventually crushed White Motor Company when they tried to do too much at once. They realized that even if they spent millions to fix it, they were still polishing a design that the world was moving away from. Think about what was happening with engine technology at the time. In 2007 and 2010, the EPA dropped a bombshell. NOx emissions had to drop by 92%. This wasn't just a challenge, it was a crisis. To meet these rules, engines needed massive cooling systems. If you've ever seen a max-force engine fail because the EGR coolers couldn't handle the heat, you know how dangerous this was. A cabover like the 362 simply didn't have the space under the floor for the giant radiators needed to keep these new, clean engines from melting themselves. To make the 362 survive, Peterbilt would have had to raise the cab even higher, making it look like a skyscraper on wheels. It would have ruined the handling and the look. So, they made a cold, hard business choice. In 2005, the last 362 rolled off the line. There was no big party. There was no farewell tour. They just stopped. They wanted everyone to forget the cabover so they could focus entirely on the 389 and the aerodynamic 386. They effectively killed the 362 to ensure that when someone thought of a Peterbilt, they only thought of one thing: a long, chrome hood. It was a move based on greed, image, and a total shift in the American highway. The 362 wasn't a failure of engineering. It was a victim of its own maker's success. Peterbilt walked away because the 362 was a reminder of an era they wanted to leave behind. They didn't want to be the length limit truck anymore. They wanted to be the American legend. But wait, there's more to this story that most people miss. If you look at the 362 today, it has a cult status. It's the screaming Jimmy of trucks, a mechanical roar that refuses to die. To this day, you'll see restored 362s at truck shows, their flat faces gleaming in the sun, reminding everyone of a time when the driver sat on top of the world. They were tough, they were stylish, and they were built with a level of craftsmanship that we rarely see today. The 362 didn't fail the road. The road, and the corporate office, simply moved on. Imagine if the law hadn't changed in 1982. We might all be driving flat-faced trucks today. The Peterbilt 362 might have been the most common sight on the interstate. But instead, it's a relic of a lost age. It serves as a warning of what happens when a company decides that their image is more important than their most versatile machine. The story of the 362 is a story of how a single law and a few corporate choices can erase a giant from the earth. Peterbilt walked away because they were afraid the 362 would hold them back from the future of big hood dominance. They traded a legendary design for a singular brand identity. And while it worked for their bank account, the highway lost a bit of its soul the day the 362 assembly line went quiet. If you ever see a 362 rolling down the highway today, take a second to look at it. You're looking at a truck that Peterbilt tried to make the world forget. You're looking at the king that was pushed off the throne not because he was weak, but because the court decided they liked the look of a different crown. Let's talk about the expectation versus reality of the 362. The expectation was that the 362 would be the ultimate fleet truck for the next 50 years. The reality was that it became an outcast in its own family. When you compare it to the fall of White Motor Company, you see a pattern. White failed because they grew too fast and bought too many companies they didn't understand. Peterbilt avoided that by being ruthless. They cut the 362 because they knew that focusing on one thing, the long hood, would make them more money in the long run. They didn't want to end up like Navistar, betting the whole company on a single engine technology that didn't work. They played it safe by killing their most innovative truck. Now, you might think the 362 was just a truck, but for the people who drove them, it was a home. The 362 offered a view of the road that you just can't get in a conventional. You were right there, on the glass, watching the world fly by. It was an experience of belonging to the road. But the doghouse made that home smaller every year. By the time the 2000s hit, the heat from the new engines was literally cooking the drivers out of the seats. It's the same thing that happened to the Detroit diesel two-strokes. They were legendary, they were tough, but they were loud and they were dirty in the eyes of the law. The world changed, and the 362 couldn't change fast enough without losing its identity. Everything I've told you about the 362 is true, but there is one final piece of the puzzle. Peterbilt actually tried to bring it back in a secret way. They saw what was happening with Cabovers in Europe and wondered if they could sell the 362 design overseas. But by then, Freightliner had already bought Ford's heavy truck line and was dominating the budget market. Peterbilt realized they couldn't compete on price, so they buried the 362 for good. They chose to be the Cadillac rather than the workhorse. When we look back at the history of these machines, we see that it's rarely about which machine is best. It's about which machine fits the story the company wants to tell. The 362 told a story of efficiency and space saving. The 379 told a story of freedom and power. In America, freedom and power win every time. The 362 was a masterpiece of what was needed, while the 379 was a masterpiece of what was wanted. Peterbilt walked away because they realized that selling people what they want is much more profitable than selling them what they need. If you take anything away from this, let it be that even the greatest designs can be killed by a stroke of a pen in a government office or a quiet meeting in a boardroom. The Peterbilt 362 didn't die because it wasn't enough. It died because it wasn't what the world, or its owners, wanted to be seen in anymore. As we reach the end of this journey, think about the trucks you see today. Almost all of them have hoods. The Cabover is a rare sight in America, a ghost of a different time. When you see one, you're seeing a survivor. You're seeing a truck that fought against the law, against the boardrooms, and against the very company that built it. The Peterbilt 362 is a legend precisely because it shouldn't have existed as long as it did. It was a fighter. And while Peterbilt walked away, the 362 is still out there, proving that a good design never truly dies. It just finds a new road to travel.